Winter, 1942. The Volga River is frozen, and snow falls like ash over a dying city. In the distance, the thunder of artillery never stops. Every building is shattered, every street a grave. But somewhere inside the ruins, a radio crackles. A Soviet voice whispers through the static. You are not fighting for the ground beneath your feet, but for the soul of your motherland. This is Stalingrad, the bloodiest battle in human history. A place where soldiers fought not just for victory, but for survival. Where entire armies vanished into the snow and one city changed the course of the world. Summer 1942. Hitler's armies had conquered almost all of Europe. France had fallen. Poland was gone. Even the mighty Soviet Union was bleeding after a year of invasion. But Hitler wanted more. He wanted oil. The vast oil fields of the Caucasus, south of the Soviet heartland, were his next target. To secure them, he needed one key city on the Volga River, Stalingrad, a city that bore the name of his greatest enemy, Joseph Stalin. Capturing it would be a symbolic victory. Destroying it would crush Soviet morale. And so began Operation Blue, a campaign aimed at bringing the Soviet Union to its knees. By August, the German Sixth Army, led by General Friedrich Paulus, reached the outskirts of Stalingrad. The Luftwaffe unleashed hell. In just 2 days, over 40,000 civilians were killed. Entire districts were turned to ashes. The Volga burned. But the Soviets didn't run. They dug in street by street, house by house, room by room. One Soviet commander, Vasily Chuikov, famously said, "We will fight for every building, every floor, every stairwell." And they did. The Germans called it Rattenkrieg, the Rat War. Snipers hid in ruins. Grenades rolled down hallways. Hand-to-hand combat raged in factories and basements. At night, the Volga froze with corpses, soldiers, and civilians together. In the shattered streets, a legend emerged. Vasily Zaitsev, a shepherd from the Ural Mountains, became one of the deadliest snipers in history. Armed with a simple Mosin Nagant rifle, he hunted German officers one by one, turning fear into a weapon. His duel with the German sharpshooter Major Koenig became the stuff of legend, whether entirely true or not. It symbolized the psychological war of Stalingrad. Zaitsev's calm precision inspired thousands. His motto, "For every German, there will be one bullet." The Germans advanced inch by inch, but they paid for every meter in blood. The Soviets refused to yield. Rations dropped to 50 grams of bread per day. Men froze in trenches at temperatures as low as -30 degrees Celsius. Women fought as snipers, medics, and partisans. In the sewers and rubble, soldiers scrawled words on the walls. "We are alive. We will not surrender." By October, half of Stalingrad no longer existed, and yet, the Soviets still held the west bank of the Volga. Then, on November 19, 1942, everything changed. While the Germans fought in the city, Soviet generals Zhukov and Vasilevsky prepared the counterattack. Their plan was audacious: encircle the entire German Sixth Army from both the north and the south, cutting them off completely. At dawn, the Red Army struck. Blizzards covered the steppes as 1 million Soviet soldiers, 1,500 tanks, and thousands of artillery guns thundered toward the German flanks. The Romanian and Italian units, guarding the German sides, collapsed under the assault. Within 4 days, 300,000 Axis troops were trapped inside Stalingrad. Operation Uranus was complete. The hunters had become the hunted. Winter deepened. The Germans were surrounded, starving, freezing, desperate. Hitler ordered Paulus to hold the city at all costs. "No surrender," he said. "Stalingrad must not fall." But inside the pocket, the situation was hopeless. Supplies ran out. Soldiers ate horses, dogs, even wallpaper glue. Frostbite and disease claimed more lives than bullets. The Luftwaffe promised to resupply them by air, but only a fraction of the food and ammunition arrived. Soviet loudspeakers broadcast a haunting message each night. Every 7 seconds, a German soldier dies in Stalingrad. And they were right. January 1943. The Soviet offensive tightened the noose. German lines collapsed into chaos. Inside a ruined basement, Paulus received Hitler's final message: "You will not surrender. You will fight to the last man." But on January 31st, his army was gone. He radioed Berlin. "The Sixth Army is destroyed." When the Soviets entered his headquarters, Paulus sat silently, surrounded by maps and the corpses of his staff. For the first time in history, a German field marshal was taken prisoner. 2 days later, the northern pocket of resistance fell. The last German message was intercepted: "We are freezing to death. Farewell, comrades." When it was over, the scale was unimaginable. In just 6 months of fighting, over 2 million people were killed, wounded, or captured. The city was 99% destroyed. Civilians starved in basements beside soldiers. Of the 91,000 Germans captured, only 5,000 would ever return home. It wasn't just a military defeat, it was a psychological collapse for Nazi Germany. The myth of invincibility was broken. And for the Soviet Union, it was a turning point, the moment when the tide of the war began to shift. Today, Stalingrad is called Volgograd. The city has been rebuilt, but beneath the streets lie the bones of hundreds of thousands. Atop a hill stands the statue of the Motherland Calls, a towering figure holding a sword toward the sky. She doesn't celebrate victory. She screams in grief and defiance, a reminder that freedom was bought with unthinkable pain. Even now, when the wind blows across the Volga, locals say you can still hear the echoes of the battle. The gunfire, the cries, the whispers of those who refused to die quietly. Stalingrad wasn't just a battle. It was a question. How much can a human endure before breaking? It was where soldiers fought in ruins, where cities turned into weapons, and where courage meant simply surviving another hour. The Germans came for a name, but they left behind an empire. And from the ashes of Stalingrad, the world changed forever. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to 5 Minutes of Culture. Because history is never just about what happened, it's about what it cost to make us who we are.